Hey guys, Tisha here. Welcome back to a recording that I already did. You guys, it is Saturday, right? So I called myself getting ahead. I said, you know what? I'm going to do a recording for Sister Wives, making sure that I watch an episode of that. I'm going to go ahead and do a chapter read book so I could get ahead of that. And I was not smart enough to pay attention to the amount of space that I had left before I decided to film what was 50 something minutes of the previous review and run out of space. So here we are. And I'm going to try to get through this, y'all. I gotta figure out something so that it doesn't seem like I'm speeding through the episode, especially since this one was lengthier because it was like a 2-hour tell-all. So there are parts that I left out intentionally because we've heard this before. And there may be things that I do not speak of that you wish to. Just make sure that you put it down in the comments section. Let's begin. We open up this episode talking about the legal marriage of Cody and Robin. He said that basically for him, it was a formality and he wanted to honor his spiritual marriage, his spiritual wedding day at that time, which was 5 years ago, not this legal documentation. So my question is, if that was just a formality, why not do it? Make sure you have the kids, everything's good, and then divorce her because the adoption still stands. But I guess that will become a problem as far as if something happened to him or if a medical decision or something along those lines needed to be made. And that's why that wasn't a thing. So the Bird says for her, it was a team situation where the 5 of them would be coming together, shuffle things around so that they can unify their family. I don't understand how much needed to happen for the family to be unified. Maybe counseling could have been something, because at this point, we saw unification when we were able to witness the reception in season 1 from their spiritual marriage. Then we saw unification again when they worked on this whole mission statement for the family, and they had that ceremony where they presented it and dressed up and all those other things. So I would think that that will unify them. Now here we are, and we need a legal marriage for Robin and an adoption of her children in order to unify them. What exactly is it going to take? Tamron says, so you wanted to have the kids included. So if it was just a shuffling of paperwork, then why did you say what you said in the course, basically, of this whole situation? Robin says for her, it was about changing what the world made them out to be. Tamron says, look, you're a plural family. When did you start worrying about what the world thinks? Cody says, when we started being clobbered by them. If they were getting clobbered at this point of the season, which is season 9, 6 years in, I believe it's because a lot of us began to see the cracks that were forming. I know personally, I stopped watching before this because I just didn't feel like they were exhibiting what they told us they were. Like, this was supposed to be a family that mainly made this decision because of spiritual doctrine and things of that nature. Yet that's not what I saw with them. I saw a lot of carnal things, and I also saw a lot of contradictions. Tamron says, you all made the choice to come out. You had a choice of having a secret life. You chose not to. You knew the challenges that you could possibly face by coming out. So you basically signed up for it. So who are the Browns if you're telling me now you're being more reserved when it comes to certain things? And they never answer that question. Instead, Cody brings it back to why they didn't include everyone for the legal marriage, which I'm like, okay, is this editing or did they not answer the question? Because they did that a couple of times. I believe that the Browns were putting on. I think to this day that we still do not know a lot about them, even though we've had a lot of footage to give us little inklings of them. I think the closest glimpses that we get of who they are found in Janelle and Christine. And I'm not saying this because I like this, but because from day one, Christine made known that she had some issues. Christine made known that there were struggles. Christine made known that she did not feel seen and she did not feel heard. With Janelle, she was truthful about some things. She was more reserved about what she's been willing to say. But over the years, she's revealed some things and said some things that show that Christine wasn't lying. Cody says that he interacts with people every day who are now at this point where they come up to him, monogamous people, on the street, trying to tell him how he should live his life. And I just don't believe it. Because you mean to tell me these people who are complete strangers to you are going up to you and saying to you what he tells us, which is that they should be living in one house? I don't got people saying that. I have you having different conversations with maybe some of your friends, with maybe some of your polygamous friends that we've seen suggest that you live in one house, because we've seen that a few times. But even with his friends, the Dargers, but here you are saying that random people do this. And of course, the bird chimes in and says that people are telling them that they're, a polygamous family and they should be living in one home. He says that even the people in his own church are saying stuff about it, about how they don't like the fact that they shuffled the marriage license, that was inappropriate. And they keep trying to use the term shuffle to make it seem like it's less than what it was. I don't think that this marriage license thing was a discussion in their faith, because let him tell it doesn't matter to his faith. So would the people in the church that they are no longer a part of, that they no longer go to, tell them that it's inappropriate? See, we got to read in between the lines with Cody, because Cody makes up a lot of lies and he fabricates a lot of things. He feels like he's been under a lot of criticism, and because of that, he's finding himself second guessing himself at times, and that he no longer reads social media because there's just a lot of criticism that he doesn't like to read. Tamron says, I know that this is going to offend you, but how do you feel now that this legal document legitimizes one wife over the other wives? And the bird says, yeah, you're offending me. Tamron says, that's a legal marriage. Janelle tries to point out that it shouldn't matter because Mary was already the legal wife. I think what the Browns are missing is that for us as the viewers, what it was hard, at least let me speak for myself, what it was hard for me to understand back then is how you could have been married to over 20 years to these other ladies and never consider giving them that legal marriage. But you didn't have a problem doing it for Robin, who was with you for less than 10 years, on the guise of adoption of her children. It just seems like you were far more willing to consider this for them for that supposed reason, but not for your other wives. The bird says that no one would ask that question if they understood that their spiritual marriage was far more important than any legal documentation. And when asked by a viewer, now that they're legally married, would Cody divorce Robin and marry again? And he says, no, there's no point in going through that process again. And I kind of wish they didn't say Mary. I wish they said any of the other wives so that they can get a turn. Janelle says people see them through their monogamous eyes, that they have a distrust for Robin for some ungodly, unknown reason, even though she's been there since the beginning of the show. So now people think that it's a ploy on the part of Robin. And I feel like, okay, Janelle, we got to be real here. People had a distrust for Robin because we as the viewers are not naive to this situation. There were so many things that were said that made us look differently at Robin because of the accusations and the things that she was saying. There were people who already were made privy to the fact that Robin was lying about the dynamic between herself and her ex-husband. There were people who knew that Robin had financially destroyed her ex-husband. There were people who didn't trust Robin because they weren't naive to the stuff that Robin was doing. There were so many things that were done to show that Cody clearly favored Robin and her kids. All these different things were being put in place and changes were being made to the family as a result of that. Janelle says nothing has changed in her marriage, so Robin did a good job. So Robin didn't do a good job. And Robin was in it for the long game. You didn't see it now, but here you are now in season 18 and you see it. Because now Janelle's money is Robin's money and Janelle's land is Robin's land. And Robin was able to buy her $1 million home off of those other wives' backs. And if anything happens to Cody, understand that Robin is going to benefit more. I would not be surprised if things have been altered because the kids have still not fallen back under Cody's reign. I'm just going to... Yeah. They then talk about the adoption part and we see the clip of Robin's fake panic attack. You remember the one where she couldn't breathe, where she, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And she rips the, oh. My dramatization was far better than Robin's because I actually... Anyways, she let me do my hands like this. She rips the mic pack out and gets up and does all of these things while she's having a panic attack. So Tamron says, Robin, looking back at that clip, I'm noticing that you can barely look out at the clip, but you floated the idea to your ex to have Cody adopt your children. And Cody says he floated it out to us. And I said, are we really supposed to believe that crap? Are we supposed to believe that this man who was told about, and this was admitted on camera, that they won't worry about the medical bills and that they won't seek out the back child support, and that Cody will be financially responsible? We're supposed to believe that he floated out that idea? No, we don't buy it. He didn't float out that idea, because if he floated it out, you wouldn't have been so fearful of whether or not that he would have been going through with it. Tamron says, so then why, say that you then felt like it was war? The bald eagle jumps in and says, it's because I was willing to go to war. And I wanted to. And I'm thinking, of course he did. I think that if it was up to Cody, that he would have made it so that the kids didn't have any interaction with their father whatsoever. And by any, I mean that they wouldn't call and they wouldn't have to see him. Because he said he was emotionally violent about it. And Cody had no reason to be upset or emotionally violent about anything. But he made it about himself, more about the kids, because we were told that the whole purpose of this was so that if anything happened, that the kids would be protected. Robin says, Preston signing the paper was a miracle and a huge relief. Stop acting like this was divinity. Him signing the papers was because he felt trapped and he felt like he had no out and he was scared of what would happen to him because they had far more access, far more money, far more reach, the backing of TLC, things that at that point Preston didn't have, because Preston already exhausted getting loans and stuff from his family because they loaned that money allegedly to him and Robin spent it. So he already owed his family for things that he previously sought financial help from them for. Robin says it was a miracle, a huge relief. They show the clip of them in the courtroom. Cody cries and said that after the adoption, everything is perfectly right and everything is just magical and surreal. Tamron points out to Mary that during watching this clip that she saw a lot of emotion, and throughout the process she saw, but at some point that the viewers as well as her couldn't help but notice how detached Mary seemed during the adoption process. And this is why we like Tamron, because unlike Suki, Tamron actually watches the show and says some of the things that we see. She sees some of the nuances and she doesn't just stick to the teleprompter or the cards. Mary says, I was dealing with a lot of external issues. So there was a detachment, but it's not because of the family. And this is because we know Mary was busy falling in love with Sam. And at that point, she didn't really care about the family. We then get flashbacks of the past pregnancy announcement and this season's announcement and the differences. And, you know, the kids one season, mainly Hunter and Maddie, were very vocal about not needing more kids, and how now, you know, they seem happier. And Tamron wants to know why she asked Mary to do this. And Cody laughs and said it was a deflection. And Robin explains, like, if it was done at my house, they would know something was up. So basically, Robin doesn't normally have functions at her house. So let's do it at Mary's, where sometimes we have functions so that they can't figure out that there's a secret. Let me further torture Mary by having her announce that we're having another child, even though Mary wanted another child, even though Cody told her he wouldn't want to have one with her naturally, even though Mary's currently having health problems, and even though Mary is going through this whole catfish thing. Let's have her announce this. Got it. Tamron says, how do you balance this to make sure that each child gets their proper time? And Cody says that they're teammates. Tamron says, but there's only one you, which is true. Christine says that it's quality, not quantity. Cody adds that he does quantity too, because he doesn't do certain things. He doesn't have hobbies. He works and he parents. Then Janelle comes in and talks about how Cody is superhuman almost in his ability to parent. Janelle sets the bar so low. How many times have we witnessed Cody be in the house with some of his families, including Janelle? Because when that whole fight happened with Garrison and Gabe, Janelle was hollering and stuff at the boys. Meanwhile, Cody was downstairs hearing all this commotion and didn't budge. He didn't come upstairs until Janelle called him, because he admitted he didn't like to discipline the kids because of how limited his time was. So he's superhero, but he's not being interactive with all his children. Janelle says none of our children complain about that. You know, the older ones say how involved you were, Cody. And I just think, you know, that he's a super hero dad. This is the part I talk about with Janelle sometimes, where I say that Janelle is a little checked out and she only sees her situation, because it's clearly not the reality. At this point, we've heard Christine complain about how her children don't have a lot of time with him. And you can see while Janelle is speaking that Christine isn't agreeing with her, because she's like, while she's talking. We then see this trip to Galveston, Texas for their 21st anniversary. Tamron says, who takes a therapist on an anniversary trip? Christine says, in retrospect, it was not the most romantic idea, but she needed it. She needed the therapist because they were having sessions that didn't quite seem like they were getting anywhere, and they needed help because they weren't communicating well. And Tamron says, oh, great, that's the perfect intro. So we see the rock exercise. We see the rock clip, how Cody didn't listen, how he made the rock exercise about the family and not Christine and Cody. And all the wives were bothered at the fact that in this moment, Cody didn't focus on Christine during that exercise. They were all furious, is what we're told. Christine says that to this day, that Cody would not have changed anything in the exercise, which to me, it means he's not apologetic. Because if you saw that something that you did was wrong, you would say something like, you know what, looking back at that exercise, I should have made it about myself and Christine first, because that's what the exercise was supposed to be about. And then later, and maybe the tail end, include the family. Taryn says she was waiting for Christine to be the Incredible Hulk and knock over the rocks because that's what she would have done. And Christine was like, it took a lot for me to not do that. I almost did it. So Christine says that she just had to realize that it wasn't just about her, that it had to be about the family too. I hate that Christine always has to minimize her feelings. She says she didn't go into plural marriage feeling like it will require all of this work. She thought that her marriage would be a piece of cake, which shows me that she really didn't know a lot about marriage at all. Cody admits to railroading her. He says that he heard Nancy say that it was supposed to be about them, but he just railroaded it, which means if Cody has something that he wants to do, he's going to do it how he wants to do it, and he doesn't care about what anybody else has to say. Tamron asks why, and he asks Tamron if we can have that conversation in private, and she says no. And then Janelle says, honey, I feel like your default setting is to always be about the family. It's about, it's always about the kids and about the whole entire family. And I just wish that Janelle would have been quiet, because in that moment she gave Cody an out, because Tamron was holding him accountable for the fact that he was not listening to Christine during the exercise. So we are supposed to believe that he is about family, but yet his actions show otherwise. Meanwhile, Christine and her kids are a part of the family, yet we've seen that he neglects to fulfill them in so many ways. Tamron says, yeah, Janelle, but if you were in this situation and the therapist told you to build something dedicated to you two, and his response was, what about the family? Then Cody jumps in and says, I railroaded her. Basically like, I'm not going to let you go there. I'm going to just admit it. I railroaded her and it was wrong, but, which negates everything that he said, I was in a state of mind that we talked about Christine and I this entire trip, and now we were going to include the family. So he's still missing it. He says, I know there's got to be tons of guys that think I'm at home that think I'm a jackwagon. And Taryn says, not just the guys. I have a comment. And he says, oh, no. I don't want to hear what the ladies have to say. They're going to clobber me. And Tamron reads it anyway. And she says, the comment says, Cody, why did you marry 4 women if you don't want to hear about women's emotions? Do you realize that making fun of them is shutting down your wives? And he, in a condescending tone to me, says, yes, you're correct. I'm so sorry. So Tamron says, that was so easy to say that, to the viewer. Why couldn't you be that easy with Christine? So Cody says, now you're digging to where I don't want to go. And Tamron says, well, you're going to kind of have to go there. So he says, Christine was struggling with plural marriage 5 or 6 years ago. Keep that in mind, because 5 or 6 years ago is when he entered the family. And I feel like Christine adjusted her response based on this. He said, she was raised in a plural family. She loved it. She knew what she was getting into, and she was yelling at him saying, I hate this. I hate it. I hate living plural marriage. I hate jealousy. He said he didn't know how to validate her, so he went to this place of withdrawal and mistrust. Now, I don't understand how your wife telling you how she's feeling in a moment, how she's feeling in regards to a new dynamic, because 5 or 6 years ago is when Robin entered the family, is you feeling mistrust. We then get the clip of them talking about it on the trip. Tamron says, you, Christine, have said that Cody is honorable, that he's supportive, and he does the best that he can do. So why the jealousy? And Christine blames herself and says it comes down to a lack of confidence. Do I believe she had a lack of confidence? Yes. I would say yes. But I would say that this lack of confidence did not come into play until Robin entered the marriage. I feel like there was a lot about Cody that Christine didn't know, and that when Robin came into the marriage, that Christine was no longer the shiny little penny, because he now had Robin, which was an adjustment for her. I also feel like him being gone so much was an adjustment for her, because he was going far to court her. I also feel like, excuse me, I got that itchy feeling in my throat, y'all. I also feel like her, pardon my candy, her coming into the picture and saying that in the book he was writing and he talked about Christine and how bubbly she was and how confident she was and how he naturally gravitated towards her and they were flirting and all these other things. But he also included he wasn't attracted to Christine. And Christine has admitted that she did not know this about him not being attracted to her until the book. So I think that messed with her confidence. She's asked for an example of when she's been jealous of another wife. Christine is not one to answer that question. And she says, I really don't think I can think of one, which is a lie, because I think that Christine knew if she said an example, a clear-cut example, that it would open up a can of worms. Cody interjects and says, I don't want you to take the heat on this. I could have done better. Tamron then flips it to the wives and says, tell me a time where Christine was jealous of your relationship. Robin says, I'm not going to do that. That goes against girl code. Sorry. Tamron says, it's out there. It's in the open. There's no girl code. You chose, and I'm happy that you did, to come out of the shadows. But you know, Robin, as well as I do, that people are wondering about this dynamic. That we understand that you all say that there's a spiritual calling, but we want to know about the jealousy. And this is one of the reasons why I liked reading about Joe Darger and his family. It's a little refreshing. Go back if you haven't done so and you don't mind listening to me read. But listen to that audiobook of Love Times 3. Because unlike the Browns, one of the things that they do in this book is they talk about not just the spiritual aspect, but they talk about the flesh. They talk about sex. And they talk about, well, they don't go into deep detail, let's be clear, but it's not taboo. They talk about jealousy and how the ladies work that out within themselves. And even Joe admitted to, at times, finding himself jealous on his wedding night when, I think it was his wedding night, one night where one of his wives was dancing with another guy and he got jealous. And it made him think of how his wives, that at the time it was just two of them, would feel seeing him interact with someone else, and how it made him kind of reflect and think about what they go through. And I think that because they were so transparent and they give us examples, it kind of shows how they work through it. But for some reason, the Browns, who have been on TV at this point for 6 years, don't want to talk about it. Mary says that Cody and I have always said that there is some forms of jealousy and that we deal with it. But she said, you don't put a face to it. How are you dealing with it? Taryn says, I think you really downplayed it until this season, though. Yes, you addressed it, but it was kind of as a like, yeah. There's a little bit of jealousy, but it's not until now that we see the face to it and that we've seen at least one wife go through that. Is it fair to say that? It's silence. Robin says, you asked for a specific time and I didn't want to rat Christine out. But we've seen Robin, or we've heard of Robin ratting the ladies out at various times over the years. So why not do it now? Tamron says, that's sweet to not want to rat out Christine. So Christine, rat yourself out. She tells them, I'm just trying to visualize a circumstance that would warrant the feeling of jealousy. And Christine says that she thinks about more than anything for her jealousy came with time, because she just felt like she wasn't getting enough of it. And Tamron points out how, they've said over the years that Cody goes from home to home. So what's going on if he's going to her home? And Cody admits that there are times where he's over at Christine's place and he's not completely engaging. So Christine gets anxiety over what she's going to discuss with him and telling him what she's struggling with. And it's because there were many times where Cody wasn't engaging with her. We saw it. We saw an episode multiple episodes really, but this particular one where Christine was in the kitchen prepping a meal for the entire family. And Cody was sitting there in the recliner or on the bed asleep. We've seen it happen a few times, or on his phone. Whereas Robin, who is preparing a meal for just her family, has Cody in the kitchen talking with her, laughing with her, and even washing dishes for her. So there was a difference, and we saw it. Janelle now in season 18 even mentions that there was a difference. So why is he so oblivious? Cody says they didn't struggle as much when they were younger, but something changed over the years. And Tamron's asking what? And Christine said everything just got complicated. She got busy and took on way too much, and it was a hard time, and she became dark. She had gotten to this place a little bit before she was pregnant with Truly, and it was hard. If this happened 5 or 6 years ago, she was already pregnant with Truly, but let's go with her reasoning. Maybe Christine was in a dark place because, I don't know, she had just lost a baby. Could it have been that she was depressed from that? Could it have been that Cody was in preparation of adding another wife, so she was in a dark period about that as well because adding a wife complicated things? Could it be that at that time that he was spending less time with her because he was busy courting the other wife and getting to know her children? There's a lot of things that had Christine in this dark place. So she says it took a long time to figure out who she is. Cody said, to be fair, I wasn't understanding the changes that were happening. Christine says she couldn't believe she was so flawed because she knew that she was entering poor marriage and she knew what she was entering when she got into it. But if you didn't know that your marriage wouldn't be a piece of cake, there's no way she would have known all that comes with being plural married. At least I don't think so. Mary says, I want you to stop saying that you're flawed because everybody is flawed. We all have issues. They're asked what advice they would give someone who is exploring plural marriage that has a lot of insecurities or gets jealous. They don't answer the question. They talk in circles. But my advice is if you're struggling in that area, then you don't need to be in plural marriage because there's a lot of sacrifice that is required of a person who enters it. Robin says it makes you feel uncomfortable. And what plural marriage does bring out your insecurities. It makes you feel like, are you a value? Is he going to love me as much as he loves her? She's like, it's embarrassing, but they're constantly saying that they want to show people that this works. I don't think that the bird has anything to worry about. And once again, that didn't answer the question. Robin adds, find strength in what you find that's good about yourself. That's what the wives do. So I guess that was her answer. You all tell me what you think. They talk about, if they're better, and Christine and Cody both say they're much better since Galveston. We get to the kids: Logan, Maddie, Aspen, Leon, McKelty, Garrison, and Peyton. My favorite isn't there because he is at the Air Force Academy. They talk about Maddie being in a serious relationship. She says she was not worried about her dad's acceptance because she was familiar with that family and she knew that her dad liked Caleb's dad. That she was more concerned, however, about the age difference and about how fast it came because it came out of nowhere. Logan said that even though this was something that Maddie, may or may not have been concerned about, that Caleb is phenomenal and Maddie is going to college and she's working and she's running her own space. So that's not anything that they worried about. They talk about the phone call that she got from the mission president at the LDS church. Basically, the elders got together and decided that when she's ready to disassociate from her family publicly and no longer be on the show, then she can join the church. And Maddie felt like this was heartbreaking and hurtful, and that there was no way she would want to be a part of a church that did not want her to be a part of her family. And I completely respect Maddie for that because it shouldn't be a thing. Tamron asks a question that always gets asked: who wants to be a part of plural marriage? And to our shock, all of them say they don't want to be a part of it. And Leon says they don't know. And we now know why that is. But Tamron thought it was odd because that's normally not the response they get from Leon. Peyton says that they believe in the religion and the faith, but it's just a no for them. And Tamron says, I'm with 7 of the Brown kids, and none of you are saying yes. Aspen says she feels bad that none of them want to do it. Maddie adds that, our family was great, and so do the other kids, but it's just not for them. Logan talks about Michelle, how happy he is with her, how much he enjoys her. and how rather than asking her out, their first kiss was him seeing her on the dance floor, pulling her in and kissing her. I'm glad that worked out because he could have got slapped. They talk about the girls' connection. They bring up Cody's lack of connection with his girls. Tamron says, you're a man that's surrounded by girls, and by this time, I would think that you would know how to have a connection with them. She says it's heartbreaking to hear Madison say that when they were little, they used to go out on dates, and she remembers those most, but it stopped. So she wants to know why it stopped. Cody said it stopped with the move to Nevada, and Janelle says that she thinks the relationship was the same, or she thought, but the dates just stopped, that they were spread out in various houses. So he was already putting more time into just seeing kids, period, because he couldn't see them in one place. And she didn't realize how much the kids valued it. She just thought it was something that he did. But Christine, who was always with the kids because she was the child provider, said that she did notice that there was a big difference, and that she told Cody that, the kids need to be tucked in, and told how much they loved them and things of that nature. But, Cody wasn't taking it seriously. They talk about the trip with the girls, about the relief that Cody had, not worrying about jealousy and all those other things. Tamron brings up how Robin seemed to be bothered that all Cody did was have fun with the girls. And Robin says the moms are the place where they have to hear the complaints and things of that nature. And Cody doesn't have to go through that. We then jump to the younger kids. It was such a weird transition. We have Gabe, Brianna, Aurora, Isabel, Dayton, Savannah, and Gwen. They go over all the adoption stuff. They're all smiles. One thing to notice was Aurora started crying, said like she felt that this was confirmation and security, something that I feel like her mom said. I don't like it. She says that ever since she met the Brown family, she felt like she was floating between families, and now she's solely part of one family, which is wonderful. I feel like two families would have been wonderful. They then talk about the cardboard boat, the mom card, how Garrison gets the mom card pulled a lot. Not Garrison, Gabe gets the mom card pulled a lot because he's constantly challenging his mom. He admits to being the mischievous one. They talk about this new baby, how it's going to be hard for Solomon. Savannah admits that she at one point was a little jealous of Truly being the baby. And Aurora says, yeah, it's going to be a hard time for Solomon because he's not the baby anymore. Mary and Janelle, we see clips talking about them deciding to work on bettering their relationship after over 20 years. We see them hug. And Tamron says that hug was so tight that the pain of how hard that situation was to her, Tamron, was not seen until the season. Janelle says they were friends for many years. That she just said they just had difficulties over time, and that there were cultural differences, like the fact that, Mary wanted to wash dishes at a certain time, but Janelle didn't. So Mary would be sleeping, she'd be washing dishes. And I get so tired of this cleaning dishes thing when we know it was more. So Tamron wants to know if they ever had an emotional attachment as sister wives. And they said yes. At various times they were connected. But now Janelle wants to make sure that they are plugged in because she's in a better place. Mary said that she would like for them to be besties, maybe, but it would be pleasant, but she's not having any high expectations because of how much they've been through. But she just would like to, work through things, and understands they have a lot of work to do. We then get to Mary and her struggles. We talk about how she told the family on that Alaska trip, don't be surprised if she does something off the wall. Robin says Mary hasn't been herself for a long time. Janelle talks about how distant she was and how they were anxious to help her in any way that they could. They're just all trying to figure out how it's best done. Cody says when Mary brought up her struggles in Alaska, he didn't know what to think, that she was talking and everything just seemed so vague. And it was, because Mary does this thing where she talks in circles when you just want her to get to the point. He said she hasn't seemed like herself for a good 6 months, that he was afraid to push hard. He was asking her a lot of times, but she would say, I don't want to talk about it, or I can't talk about it. I wish we knew if this was around the time that he stopped sleeping in her bed and holding her and things of that nature, because Mary now admits to there being a point where she wanted to be held and comforted by him and he didn't want to do it. Because I think Mary said that happened before the catfish, but she's still protecting Cody. We then hear a voiceover of Tamron saying, a few days before the tell-all, news broke that Mary had been catfished. And at that point, Mary didn't tell Cody or the sister wives. So we see all the stuff with the final episode and her alluding to something. She still didn't jump ahead of it and let them know. Tamron says that unbeknown to Mary, she was engaging in an online relationship with a man that she believed was called Sam. No matter how she wants to put it, I think Mary was going to leave. Sam may not exist in this voiceover. Sam may actually be a woman. So Tamron says, Mary, it's been revealed that you had an online connection with someone who may not have been who you thought they were. Mary then explains that the last time we were here, the legal divorce had been made public. And during that month, they were bombarded with a lot of questions and things. And she saw comments where basically people were cheering her on that she finally left him, which is because a lot of us saw that they were struggling, and we saw how he treated her, and we saw how it went from him seeming to love her to him tolerating her. She said she was in a vulnerable state where she was open to friendship and relationship outside of the family and her safety zone. When you say relationship, to me, that means you were looking for something other than friendship, because she's openly admitted that she wanted a deeper connection. Why did that need to involve a relationship? I don't say that we have a relationship when I'm talking about my best friend. I say that I have a friendship, that is like my brother, etc. One person reached out to her and they started talking online through social media, then on the phone, and that she enjoyed that friendship and the laughter. And he started saying the right things, flattering comments, as well as expressing affection and love for her. So she started to love who he had portrayed himself to be. Tamron asks if, looking back at that, if the laughter and the compliments was something that Mary was missing from her relationship with Cody. And Mary doesn't answer the question. Mary just says she was open to friendship and laughter. So if she really answered the question, then the answer would have been yes. Mary says that he would tell her that he wanted her to leave a message on the phone saying how she felt. And that should have been a flag to her. He was specific about how he wanted her to say on the voicemail that she loved and cared for him. And she said that she talked to him for about, and then she cut herself off to stop herself. And she says, I talked to him for quite a while. So she's still being vague about the situation. You've been caught. At this point, just put it all out there so the person can stop spraying you and you could just tell your own tea, which is why I really, really want for us to read the book, but I still can't find it from the Catfish, because even though some of it may be like BS, I feel like there'll be some truth into it, because we know the Catfish talked about the rings in the book, the melting down of the ring in the book. She talks about the cracks and how he pushed for a more serious relationship, along with subtle threats about his friend who was a hacker. And if you cross the friend, she gets you. She met this friend and she put her phone on top of Mary's phone and said she can get all the information from her phone. And I want to know why Tamara didn't ask, why did you meet this friend? Because that seems like a big jump to me. You met the friend, but you didn't meet the man. Why are you meeting the friend? So she made the decision to distance herself from the friends and the family because she felt like she could protect them. I think she just didn't want to get caught. Mary believed they would destroy her and the family, and she was scared of what they would do because they were showing her. She felt threatened by them. There was a time where she got a phone call in the store, and the guy told her exactly what store she was in. So she just felt like she had to keep pushing them away. I struggle with this type of stuff because even though Cody was treating Mary badly, I feel like Mary still should have removed herself from the situation before she explored anything. That the Catfish came into play, not just because of how Cody was treating her, but because Mary wasn't openly expressing herself. Mary was protecting him, not saying what was really going on. And that as a result, Mary is made to be seen like the bad guy. But Cody has fault in this too. Nobody knew. They just saw how distant she was. Janelle said she would go to family events, sit in the background, and then hurry up and leave. Cody found out 3 weeks before it was made known to the public. He said he had people reaching out to him, and he thought it was creepy, and he told Mary to get your friends because, I think you should, stop talking to them. He said that Mary thought that her house was being bugged. He said that there are mistakes that he made in the relationship that left her in a lonely, vulnerable spot. And I wish Tamron asked what those were. I feel like Cody stopped being a husband to her. He said there was a time where he'd go to talk to her and she'd be in tears. He thought that it was just phone conversations and online stuff that he saw, like her flirting, and that he was aware that they were in a tough spot in the relationship and he just should have read the situation better, that he didn't know if she was done. He was waiting on her to say whether she wanted to rekindle something or do some counseling. He was trying to be hands off, which she always wanted hands on. She was always touchy-feely and all those other things, a lot like Christine. So why would you think she wanted hands to be off? He said he was in a fog while she was being terrorized. Tamron says, Mary, was it that you were missing? What was it that you were missing that this person was able to infiltrate your heart? Mary claims she doesn't know and brings up this whole laugh thing again. She says she was not in a physical relationship with him. She never met him. The pictures that she saw weren't even of him. They were an actor. That there were times where she talked to this person, they get mad, hang up the phone, and then that friend that she met up with would say, like, you better say this or you better say that, or it's gonna come back and haunt you, basically. Tamron wants to know what gave her the courage to tell the 4 people. And Robin says that I made her say it, that I begged her for months to talk to me. Mary said because they ruined her life and she felt like it was about to break up the family. So when they went to Colorado to go visit Hunter, Mary went to Robin's room and told her the things that had happened. She said that she eventually told Cody, felt terrible telling him for inviting this person in their family. Cody said that this person was trying to exploit her, harm our family, and damage our children. So he feels nothing but forgiveness for Mary. He just saw it as flirtation. Tamron says, so it's not emotional infidelity. And Cody says that he saw it as someone who Mary made friends with. I'm going to assume that he still isn't privy to everything because Cody no longer feels this way. Tamron says she felt or thought that, Mary was in love. And Mary tries to fix it by saying, I felt love for the person that wasn't even real. Cody says that he needs to see someone to determine whether or not he's in love with them. And I was like, okay, Cody, that's not love. There are plenty of people who have fallen in love with someone just by conversations. And so it doesn't require the physicalness to know you love somebody. Janelle says when she found out, her first reaction was to put on her armor, go to war, and protect her as a family. And they all agree. Mary claims that they now all know everything. A few hours ago, she told some of the other kids, no matter what you hear, I was never going to leave you guys. I feel like that's a lie. She's saying that the catfish made her say certain things, and that's why it's out there. And she claims that she didn't want to leave the family, that they told her to say it. I feel like Mary was trying to cover her tracks. This is on Mary. She says she's not going to allow them to tear up the family on her watch. Well, in this case, I don't feel like they tore up the family. I feel like it was Mary. I just got to keep it honest. You all let me know. Well, let me rephrase. I don't feel like they succeeded in tearing up the family. I definitely feel like Cody tore up the family. Let me make that clear. I just feel like in this instance, Mary can't blame the catfish. Mary has to blame Mary because Mary should have said how she felt. Mary should have made it clear that Cody was doing certain things to her rather than trying to protect him, rather than pulling to someone else into the dynamic. Because if you wanted a safe space, then you shouldn't have been communicating with someone that you were finding yourself attracted to. Once you crossed the line, it should have been cut. You all tell me below your thoughts and opinions. Please like the video, comment, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe. I'm on the road to 2,000, and every like, every share, every comment helps me get into that algorithm and helps me get closer to my next goal. Until next time.